Hi, this is Stephanie Hansen, and you're listening to the Makers in Minnesota podcast, where we talk to cool people doing cool things. And today we're with Maddie Poling, and she is the founder of Sacred Space Gardens. And Maddie, I'm so excited to talk to you because I am a gardener myself, but I also really am intrigued by your business because you guys seem like you're doing everything. So, how long have you been in the gardening space?
Well, okay, so I started gardening when I lived in California, and that was in roughly 2015. And then I have been gardening since then. And Sacred Space Gardens in 2018 became an actual business, a registered business. So that's how long.
Okay, so you will go into people's gardens and do like all the stuff. You'll do the weeding, you'll do the planning, you'll do the planting, but you have like all this whole array of services. So like I'll admit my first garden was very overwhelming because it was super large. So what I did is I hired someone to come and dig it all up and put all the mulch down. And then I did all the planting and the fun stuff, but like I had them put all the hardscapes in and everything, and then they left. Like
Yeah.
you really have it figured out where depending on whatever level of gardening you want, you can provide them.
Yeah, it depends on what they need in many regards. And we've actually recently stopped doing any hardscaping because it's just not in our wheelhouse. And we really are striving to be experts in our field of really working with plant material and native plants, particularly. So just honing in and focusing in on what we want to be the best at. And it's not hardscaping. When I say hardscaping, that is, we're not doing decks or patios. We used to do gravel patios and gravel pathways and like flagstone patios. And we've ended that service. So now we're solely focused on planting, mulching, creating new garden beds, cutting away grass to make room for more plants and more native plants.
Okay, so let's talk about that because I really thought I knew a lot about gardening. And then I moved into a house that had a native garden, completely native garden. And I've added some stuff, which I probably shouldn't have in retrospect, because now I know exactly why she had a native garden because there's a deer trail through my yard.
Oh,
So, that she planted things that were resistant to the deer, but help people understand what it means to have a native garden.
yeah. So when you think of native plants, we're really talking about the perennials or the trees. Like, so when I say perennial, it's the plants that come back year after year. It's the plants that are native to this region. And we're in zone 4 in Minnesota. So that's native plants that are native to Minnesota. And the zones and the region that I'm talking about, actually, there's a lot of different regions, but I'm specifically referring to the Twin Cities kind of general zone and area. And so yeah. And so native plants are native to this area. And the reason that we choose them is because they're so well conditioned through hundreds of thousands of years to grow in this area. Native plants are better suited to the region because they have deeper root systems. They can tap into the groundwater. That means that they can survive longer, through drought conditions, which we're kind of having right now with the super heat in Minnesota. And then, so they're better at helping take the groundwater that, when it rains, and then sucking it down into the ground so that it goes into the ground, because we don't want stormwater runoff carrying chemicals and things into our waterways. So that's one reason. And then another reason is that they are pollinator plants. So they help wildlife.
I love it. So you go, you're in California and sounds like you're a gardener, obviously. But like, what made you decide that you were the person that could do this as a business? Because it's such hard work.
Yeah, it is really hard work and it's a lot of expertise. So it took me years to develop that. So when I was in California, I was just weeding gardens part-time when I was transitioning in between jobs. And then every year, just people ask me to do more and more. And then that comes with research and trial and error. And a lot of my clients had let me trial things that they had ideas for, or that I had ideas for. And they either have the budget or the time to allow that. So it's been really a very slow transgression, or what's the word I'm thinking of?
Transition.
There you go. But it's I also took the Master Gardener course, and that really helps through the U of M Extension. They have a wealth of information that they share there. So
How long is that course?
I think it took 3 months, I believe.
And
That's what it is.
so you now have this business, and tell me about the name of your business? Is there any significance to your name?
Not particularly. Aside from that, I'm just very like spiritually connected to the earth. So it is a sacred space, and that we should treat it that way. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty name.
Talk about employees, because you obviously can't do all this work yourself. How do you find employees, or have you found that that's been a pain point for you? Because we're hearing so many of these laborer type jobs that require physical effort that they're just having such a hard time finding people.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And in the spring, like the very, very end of winter was difficult. Usually I have a lot of applicants throughout that whole springtime, and I had like one a week, which was very frightening for a while. But then I don't know, it just sped up all of a sudden. And now I still have applicants coming in. So I didn't have a problem this year, but it was a little spooky in the spring, like early spring. And that was difficult. So,
Yes.
I feel for the people that have jobs that are maybe a little less fun, because we do have a lot of fun in my work. And I think that attracts a lot of people to it. So,
And do you only hire for seasonal? So in the winter, you do not do this, obviously. What do you do in the winter?
yeah. So in the winter, it's a lot of planning. So we do the winter planters all the way up until about Christmas time. And then I take a big break in January and kind of decompress to think about what happened in the season, and planning for what can be better. And then we usually take family vacation then. And then, yeah, so I lose all of my employees except for my office manager in the winter for roughly 3 months. And it's really difficult to have to lose employees and hire them on again. But we do have something in the works to keep us employed all winter, which I'm guessing we can either talk about now or when you
Sure. What is it?
Okay. So we franchised, and that is being announced on July 5th, like the official announcement, not that people can't know. And so our business is going to be available to other people all over the nation. And I'm just so excited to take them under my wing and help them make this happen for themselves and be a part of this community that I've started. And so that will definitely come with a lot of office work in the winter.
So this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to podcast with you, because I found your site and I was looking at it, and then I thought, a franchise model. And then I thought you were a franchise, but no, you're starting a franchise for other people. So let's say someone is a gardener and someone's interested in expanding and having clientele. Is that what you would franchise for them or teach them how to do?
So we have a whole proprietary system that we've created, and I've over the winter have been developing with a franchise consulting company. And I took out a loan through Women Venture to develop the franchise. And it's actually one of the biggest loans that they've ever given out. That's a little nerve-wracking, but
Yeah.
So they've helped me. The franchise consultants have helped me. And then I also have a franchise attorney who has a wealth of information on how to develop this. And I was really inspired by someone I went to high school with who franchised her company, Face Foundry. I don't know if you know.
Oh, I sure do. Michelle
Yeah.
Henry.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know Michelle. So
I do. She's an amazing person, and she started Primp.
Yeah.
And then she had Face Foundry. She's been a guest on the program a couple times.
That's great. And I knew her, in high school a little bit, but we don't really know each other super well. But I just saw what she was doing, and I had been thinking about it for years, and I was like, that's it. I'm gonna do it. So yeah, so we have a whole proprietary system that we go through and have a very in-depth training that we go through to help them get started. And we have all the branded things that they need, and then offer ongoing support. And then that involves a lot of things, but yeah.
Because gardening and gardeners tend to be creative people. And one thing we know about creative people, and I would include myself in this class, is we aren't necessarily good always at the detail things or at the accounting things, or we don't spend our as much energy and get as much joy out of those things that aren't creating. And I would think a franchise model really could appeal to some folks that just really want to get their hands into the garden.
Well, that's true. For these first few, I want them to be very entrepreneurial because it's going to be an adventure diving into my first franchisees. But as a franchisor, we are here, I have a leadership team, are here to support them to succeed because their success is our success and so on. So really, that's right, that if they are gardeners and they want to garden and they're not so great at running a full-fledged profitable company, then this is a plug-in sort of system. But yeah, like I said, the first few need to be here for helping develop us even further.
Yeah. And
Right.
then as you grow and you do this in other parts of the country, it's kind of something that would exponentially grow. A lot of franchises are services, so this makes sense in that regard. How much generally does a franchise cost?
Yeah. Before that made me think of something that there are a lot of service-based franchises, but there are no organic gardening franchises, except for in the UK. They're all over England.
Sure.
But there is not one. And we are just like rearing and ready to go because this is beyond due, for our country to help the environment. And okay, so when you, the initial investment, the franchise fee is $30,000. There are other costs involved, like they do need to buy a truck if they don't already have one. They do need to have a space, and it can be through their home as long as they have enough room to be having the materials in the truck. And then it's actually a pretty low threshold for getting into a franchise.
Yep.
It can go up into, hundreds of thousands to millions for that initial investment. But I wanted to keep the threshold or entry point low so that, we can get this work done. We got to do it. We have to help the climate.
Who do you see as a good person for a franchisee for you?
Yeah, I've given this a lot of thought over the past few months. I foresee people who have been working inside a lot and they want to be outside. They want to be more in charge of their own time. So a little more time freedom. They want to run a profitable business. I can obviously franchisors cannot guarantee their franchisees can be profitable, but I can show them what I've done and what I can help them do. So yeah, I foresee someone who's potentially in corporate America and really wants to take hold of their life and do something good for the world.
You've talked a lot about the world and the planet, and tell me that must be a real driving factor for you personally.
Yeah. That's the biggest factor aside from, everyone needs money to live. And this is a way that I can do that. And I have a lot of fun doing it. Aside from that, it's, if we don't take serious climate action as fast as possible, then my children don't have a future here. I mean, it's going to be inhospitable sooner rather than later. And aside from that, we are all connected to the earth, and I don't like to get too hippy dippy because I think that people tend to shy away and think that's strange, but it's the truth.
Well,
So
and I think when you look at it from your livelihood and your perspective too of, I mean, I've been gardening, probably 25 years, and it's changing. The amount of water that's required is changing. The amount of plants that do well in Twin Cities is changing. I have I have four gardens, and three of the four have those Asian jumping worms or the jumping worms
mhm.
that, we didn't even know about those. And we've seen the invasion of the beetles and a lot of these pests that really have become more and more pervasive over time. And a lot of that has to do with climate change, obviously.
Yeah, and the invasive plants that have completely taken over. I mean, I'm just saying in the Twin Cities because this is what I'm driving around town every day, all day. It's terrible. They're completely the invasive plants are due to human development, and climate change is exacerbating all of it. So it's really hard to see, and I know that we can change that, and I know that the guy running through your yard with a mower and a sprayer spraying fertilizer or chemicals with a gas powered mower is archaic. It's the opposite way that we should be going. And not to say that those mowers or whatever don't have a place in our world. Maybe they do, but not as the norm, not as the major maintenance for all of our facilities throughout the entire world.
Yeah, we moved this year or 2 years ago, I guess, into an oak forest. And I love oak trees and I grew up around oak trees, but I'd never really had the intensity of, wow, these trees have a lot of things that come with them. The
Yeah.
leaves, number one, the detritus that they leave in the spring, the acorn, like there's every season of an oak tree, there's some residual something that I'm dealing with and having to figure out. And so we got a blower for the first time, and my husband got a battery pack blower because I didn't realize how much diesel fuel and how much those blowers are really contributing to the environment in a not so great way.
Yeah, I mean, there's no regulation on them, and they spew out as much as a big truck, like a 2-ton truck, which is a huge truck, and that's amazing for those. That means that there's really no filter, nothing, and I feel bad for the workers that sit on a mower all day or sit, or have the gas powered blowers or doing the chemicals. I mean, they're really endangering their lives completely. So, it has to change, and the environment is a huge driver to this franchise model and what we're trying to do.
So do you deal with things like buckthorn, creeping Charlie? There's a mustard green that's pretty invasive.
Yeah.
And is the solution to just pull all those out by hand?
Yeah, right now, a lot of times the best solution is pulling and then repulling and really out competing with other plants that are native here. And if you're not planting native, then something that's beneficial to our region and isn't going to cause damage. So that takes a little research if you're not hiring someone who is experienced in picking
Yep.
out those kinds of plants. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. I can't wait to talk to you in like 2 years too,
Yeah.
because you're right on the cusp here of starting this. So
Yeah.
I always like to go back and talk to makers down the road and see like if their dreams came to fruition.
Yeah.
You seem like a really driven person, and I'm excited to see what people have in store for you and what your clients will bear bringing along as you grow this business. How do you want people to reach out to you? What's the best way if they need help either in the garden or if they want a franchise?
Yep. So the best way is through our website, and the franchise has a contact page that's different from our regular contact page. You can see that all on the website, and it's sacredspacegardeners.com.
Okay, Maddie, thank you so much for joining me. And I appreciate you joining me in this epic garden season.
Yes. No, I know. I drove right from a garden site, and I'm still sweaty.
Yeah, I understand. I hear you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.